Hello friends, this is Dr. Amarjeet Kaur, Professor of Accounting and Business Communication at the Department of Management. This is my privilege that I am here with you to talk on organization of finance function. So as the name suggests, we are going to talk about how the finance function is organized in any particular setup or any organization, primarily in general of course. So this would be the agenda for next few minutes. So, friends, the background is that finance is a very important aspect of any business. For the success of business, for the sustainability of a business. So, finance is very important, and financial management, which is actually managing finance, is the backbone of every successful organization, irrespective of the size, age, country, where does it operates from. Every aspect is ignored, but important is the finance function itself, right? It comprises a range of processes, techniques, to effectively, efficiently manage financial resources whichever a company has. So primarily we are talking about that financial management is planning, organizing, controlling, reporting even of any organizational financial resources. So everything comes under the umbrella of financial management. So it's all about monitoring, controlling, and even the protecting report, and the reporting of course is there of financial resources. Every company has limited resources, right? So they need to protect, they need to report it, they need to make best utilization of these resources. That's what financial management is. For to manage that, we use many tools, many techniques, many processes are well defined. So our agenda will be to see that how this financial management function or finance function can be organized in any organization effectively, right? So tasks for financial management are spread throughout the organization, in the sense that financial management is to a great extent an integral part of the job for managers who are involved in planning, allocation of resources and control. So it's just not the planning part, even allocating the resource. For example, a business has 1 crore available in one quarter, in a particular quarter. So the business has to decide that how it will like to allocate that 1 crore, which is the cash in hand or the cash flows available. Is it going to be just used in working capital? Is it going to be used for just keeping in the bank? Is it going to be used to run another cycle of operations? Is it going to be deposited somewhere? Is it going to be invested in a machine, building, etc.? Right? So that is allocation of resources. Even that comes under the umbrella of financial management. And finally, the control is certainly there. So from planning to allocation to control, everything is involved, and that comes under the umbrella of finance function. So if we really get into little deep of it, the finance function, they are practices and activities focused on managing a business financial resources to generate of course profits. So, and these functions are critical in acquiring and managing financial resources and contributing to the productivity of other business functions. What does it mean? So, as I you must have seen the slide. The finance function, it refers to the practices or the real actions company takes or business takes, those activities, those practices which are focused on managing the business, the financial resources. Ultimate purpose is to generate profit and to increase shareholders' wealth. With that objective in mind, whatever the activities which are carried, if they are leading to shareholders' wealth maximization, they are leading to generating profit, they are taken as finance function, right? And the finance functions are critical in acquiring, managing financial resources, because we cannot ignore it. It is at the realm of every single managerial function. No function of management, be it marketing, HR, operations, supply chain, you name it, none of the managerial function is possible to be run without finance, right? So finance is involved in all the aspects of business, and ultimately which is leading to increasing productivity of the business and also to support all business functions, not only the finance function. For example, the production manager, what does he do? He shapes the investment policy. He will put up the requirement for new plant, new machinery, new or modification in the current plant. So that is what the production manager or engineers, affects. So what does he affect? He or she is affecting the capital investment, which is investment policy, the capex of a company, right? So the capex is in actually the beginning point of capex is the production guy's proposal coming up basis on the increase in demand, and the demand is increased by the sales team, of course. So all the functions are integrated. So that is where the production managers, the finance function is spread in production function itself. How is finance function related to marketing? For example, marketing manager or the analyst, they will provide inputs in forecasting and planning of the sales required of, so basis on that the production guy will put up the proposal. So the marketing manager, they need also finance, and they are affecting the investment, right? The basis on the input received from the analysts, from the marketing managers, the forecast of the sales and the planning for the next quarter, next month is been made, right? So that is again the finance is spread to that extent. How the finance function is spread to the purchase manager or at purchase level? So the purchase manager influences the level of investment in inventories, because he is the one who will actually influence and decide the minimum level of inventory for all the raw materials which are used in production, the maximum level, the ordering level. All those levels for raw materials are decided by the purchase manager, which is indirectly affecting my finance function. How come? Inventories means the working capital requirement. Inventories mean holding money in the form of raw material or even finished goods or work in process. That is what the inventory is, because inventories are of three types. We all know by this time. Okay. So purchase manager is also influencing the finance function, because the inventories are affecting my finance, because we need funds to fund those inventories, to keep those inventories. And let us see if how the sales manager or how the finance function is spread to sales level. So the sales manager has a say in deciding the receivable policy, that what would be the debt recovery policy or receivable policy. So receivables are what? Receivables are the policies, the debts which were sales which were made on credit, right? So the people who have to pay us, they become our debtors, right? So debt is what is involved in the sales. So the higher the credit sales are, the higher would be the debt amount to be received. And who affects the receivable policy? The sales guy, because they would know that how easy or difficult to sell it on cash, and how much important or necessary or compulsory it is to sell on credit, because no company would want to sell on credit, right? It could be competition, it could be just the type of the business they are in, it could just be the need of that particular area or geographically, that sales team has to sell on credit, right? Credit sales means the receivables, and the receivable policy affects my finances. How come? Because receivables, if recovered on early, means my liquidity is influenced positively. If they are delayed, if the receivables are collected late, takes longer than the policy has been made, or in general it takes more than the industry average time of collection, then my liquidity is affected, then which means I need to arrange more cash, I need to arrange more funds to run my day to day working, to run or to fund my working capital. Otherwise, receiving from the debtors, people who have to pay us, it is a source of funding my working capital, or otherwise source of finance for a company, right? Early recovery means more liquidity, better liquidity for the company. So even my finance function is affected by sales manager's action. So the point I am making out is that all the functions, be it purchase, be it sales, be it operation, be it production, be it marketing, they all are affecting the finance function, or in other way finance is existing or prevalent in all the functions. So it's other way around. Okay, so this is the importance of finance function and the spread of finance function. So when it comes to organization of finance function, let's have a look at the this flow chart. So at the top we have board of directors, then we have managing director, and then we have chief finance officer, CFO, or other names could be given. So primarily the company's structure is that board of directors are there, managing director is there, the person who manages the day-to-day affairs, or I mean deals with all the chief finance officer, chief sales officer, chief production officer, all those chiefs, right, directly under his control. So then under the control of chief finance officer is controller of, and then the treasurer. These two important, very important mid-level managers are there, mid-level management is there. And then we have under the controller we have tax manager, we have cost manager, cost or cost accountant, we have financial accountant, right, merger accounting, and then we have merger managers who are taking care of financial accounting as well. On the other hand, we have treasurers who are taking care of cash management and taking care of credit management. So we call them as treasury role. So this is the generally a format of finance function in any organization. We will be discussing each functionary role in detail in few minutes, but at this moment the agenda was just to give you an idea and discuss other aspect of how the finance function is organizing before we hit that aspect we intend to discuss later, right. So moving forward, let's talk about what are the factors which affect the organization of finance function. So a couple of factors which affect the finance function in any organization. First of all, size and nature of the business, age of the firm, then ability of finance head, type of financing operations, and then lastly the financial philosophy. So these are the 5 major factors which affect the finance function. Let's discuss them one by one. How does size and nature of the business affect finance function? Finance, as we said, as we discussed earlier, means finance function means planning, managing, controlling the financial resources, even reporting of financial resources. That's what primarily, or in the easy sense, the finance is. Now, how does size and nature? Size, if the business, one business, if imagine a sabji vendor wala which comes to your colony, the veg vendor, right? His requirement of daily funds would be somewhere 5,000, 7,000, right, depending on what kind of vegetables he is selling, right. And imagine the other size of a business, which a company which is manufacturing mobile phones, which is manufacturing cars, which is manufacturing steel, which is manufacturing even aeroplanes. So you can imagine the difference between one vendor or one small shop near to your house to versus these examples I took. So that is talking about the volume of the sales, volume of the transactions, the size of the business in terms of investment, in terms of sales turnover, right. So if the size is big, of course the finance function becomes more complex. We need to have more control, we need to have more levels of finance. One shop, the same guy is the salesman, the shop owner is the same guy, production guy, he is the inventory manager, he is the cash manager, he is everything, right. He remembered kisse lena hai, kisko dena hai and all that. So he is the only one who is taking care of finance function. But so this is, and had the size been very big, we have so many people, there could be more than one treasury department, there could be more than one treasurer, because cash function or credit function all depends. A company may have city-wise treasurer, company may have zone-wise treasurer or like that. So size really affects the finance function, and so is the nature of business. There are businesses which are producing and selling throughout the year. There are businesses which are just seasonal. So the seasonal business would have sudden requirement of raw materials, sudden requirement of working capital during a certain period of time in the year, whereas the other business which is running throughout or which has the same demand, for example all toothpaste, all soaps, they have equal demand, almost equal demand throughout the year, right? But winter clothes, if we talk about a company manufacturing sweaters, coats, etc., they are only meant for winters, right? So their requirement would be different. Sugarcane, companies producing or manufacturing sugar, so they need to buy sugar canes, and the sugar cane comes during certain periods of the year, right? So their requirement for working capital, for inventory purchase would be different. So nature of the business also affects the finance function, that if the business has the same kind of flow of activities throughout the year, the number of people involved in managing finance function would be more. Then the age of the firm also affects the finance function. Age is, if it is a new company just beginning its operation, then certainly we may not be requiring to expand much, we may not be requiring so much of capital expenditure in the, or just after setting up. To set up we really need good amount of capital expenditure, but after setting up we would like to generate some cash, we would like to have some revenue to meet up the expenses, and after gestation period we may like to expand. So this is the age of the firm which affects the company's finance requirement. Then ability of finance head is also important. How does it affect? So finance head may be capable of managing both cash and credit, as well as tax filing, as well as financial reporting. And in other company, there could be a person who is not that able. So in that case, the ability of finance head also affects that how many people would be working there, right? There could be a finance guy who can manage, who can file the tax returns very easily, who can manage the sales, taxes, as well as excise duty, custom duty. There could be other person in another company who has that ability. So in that case, the company would require different type of people working in the company, right? So a tax guy is separately required, a custom guy is separately required, then the person to deal with the financial reporting part is different. So how well or how good, how learned the finance head is, it affects the kind of requirement the finance function will be organized, the type, how the finance function will be organized. If we have a very capable functionary head, the finance head, he will take care of many head parts of the finance function single-handedly. But if not, then we may need different heads for different finance function, as we discussed. For treasury, we can have many people within the treasury. The next point is type of financing operation. What kind of financing operation or type of financing operation do we have? So financing is basically who gives us money for working capital, who gives us money for capital expenditure, right? Where does the money come from? It may come from share capital, it may come from debt, right? So if we have share capital being, or we have the capital being invested by shareholder, then we need somebody in a finance function, we need to have people who really keeps up relationship with shareholders. If we have more funding from banking institution, then we need to have finance function in designed or organized in such a way that there are people who really manages the bank's relations. This is non-bank relation management, right? So the financing operation affects the finance function. Financing is different from finance, right? I hope that you could get that. So financing is the source of funds. So primarily debt or equity. So this also affects the how my finance function in my organization be organized. Lastly is the financial philosophy itself. What kind of financial philosophy the management has? You know, a few years ago, one of the the biggest company in India announced that they will not have debt, after 2 years from now. So they started paying off all the debts. So they, which means they said they would be completely, equity owned company, completely. So financing would be completely the equity source, no debt funding at all, and whatever the debt they had that time, they said it will be paid off in 2 years time. So this was the philosophy, right? But there are companies which believes in using complete funds from outside. So financial philosophy, there are companies which where owners believe that they cannot, if the small company or private organizations are there, where owner doesn't ever gives access of books or details to anyone in the organization. They want to keep financial matters close to them itself. It all depends what kind of philosophy. If the financial philosophy is to spend and to spend on the well-being of the employees, to spend on growth, to the philosophy is to take less debt or take more debt, it affects the complete finance function. Accordingly, we would need people for various aspects of finance functions based on the philosophy the management has regarding the financial management. Now, there is one very important concept which is agency theory, agency problem, which is related to that how the finance function is organized does affects the agency theory problem, and in other way agency problem may affect us to review the organization of finance function. They are interconnected. So it's a two-way effect, right? So what is agency problem? So agency problem is a situation that we know and understand that or ownership and the management, they are separate, right? Owners are the ones who are investors, equity shareholders in a big corporation, right? And management is done by the board of directors, by managing director who is appointed by shareholder, but shareholder themselves are not present, right? They are not present. It means there is a difference between, so there is a separation, there is a distance between the shareholders and the people who are actually managing financial functions of the business or the business itself, including the finance function, right? So consequently, because of this agency theory or the problem, the management enjoys absolute freedom, autonomy when it comes to affairs of the firm. There is a substantial amount of autonomy to them. Why so? Because the ownership is scattered distantly. People, shareholders are nowadays, they are sitting in others overseas countries even. Shareholders are sitting in different cities, they don't come for meetings, right? So this leads to agency problem. This in fact fuels the agency problem because there is a minimum influence or role played by shareholders in such situation. So in that case, shareholders are distant, and so management is inclined to act in their own interest rather than the interest of owners. Believe me, when we begin the series on financial management, we discussed that the objective of financial management is to maximize shareholders' wealth, which is not taken care here because of this agency problem. Because owners are sitting or they are spread across the world, and the management is in the hand of the people who have been selected by the shareholders, and after that they are absolutely free. They have so much of autonomy. So they do not take care of maximization of shareholders' health because their own interest comes into force, or they take care of their own interest. This is what is known as agency problem. So this agency problem can be actually taken care, can be prevented by two forces how can, number one is the market forces, number two is agency cost, right. So, the objective of survival or management would aim at satisfying instead of maximizing shareholders' wealth, and this can be taken care either by market forces or by agency cost. So, let us see how market forces can take care of this aspect. The market forces can act or to prevent agency problem by two ways. Number one, the behavior of security market participants, the people who are participating in the security market, in the sale and purchase of shares, right. So those are the participants in security market. How do they behave to the agency problem? So their response to the agency problem will kind of, if it is constructive, it is active, so it will help us curb agency problem, number one. Number two, the forceful could be hostile takeover. So sudden takeover by some other investor. So because they keep on buying shares and then finally there is a takeover. So such kind of hostile, unplanned hostile takeover can also curb agency problem, because they are the people who took over, they will actually will have direct control on the management. The second way to deal with this agency cost and agency problem through agency cost. Here we take 4 different aspects of it. Number one, through monitoring, through bonding with the shareholders and and the management, opportunity and the structuring. We can structure the whole organization in a way that there is a minimum agency problem, there is a minimum gap between the shareholders interest as well as the management. There is a minimum conflict between the interest of shareholders and interest of the managers who are managing the show. So effective monitoring is the answer here. So this is known as agency cost, right. So by increasing the cost on monitoring, on bonding, on opportunities and on structuring, we can reduce the agency problem. So these were the ways to handle this agency problem, and it should always be taken care whenever we are designing the organizational structure, that our agency problem should be kept at minimum. I hope you were able to understand what is the finance function, how it is organized, and how does agency problem plays a role in defining or designing the organizational structure for finance function. So with this I would like to wind up. Thank you very much.